In this video, I'm going to talk about what you need to do as the pre-lab assignment for the 9-bottle lab. So to skip ahead just to look and see what's the purpose of the 9-bottle lab, if you look at the chart here, we've got a mixture of different possible solutions, and we're going to figure out in the lab, we have unknown bottles. They're going to be labeled A through H, and we're going to mix them together in different combinations and determine, which compound is in which bottle. So maybe bottle B is potassium iodide, maybe bottle D is silver nitrate. We're going to figure out which one is which. So in order to do that, we need to look at these are the possible solutions, and when I combine them together in different combinations, which ones form products and which ones do not. So you're going to look at all these different combinations and write net ionic equations for them and see which ones form products. If there's no product form, you'll put a dash in the box. So here you can see what to fill in the chart. If it forms a white precipitate, we'd put a W, a yellow precipitate, we'd put a Y, a G for a gas, and a dash for no reaction. And I don't expect you to know off the top of your head what different compounds are different colors. So there's a list of potential products here. You can see most of them are white, but silver iodide is one that's yellow. And then we talked about gas-forming reactions in lecture. We talked about carbonic acid, H2CO3, and how that breaks down to form CO2 gas and H2O. So if you see H2CO3 as one of the products of your reaction, you should know that you're going to see bubbles for that reaction, so we would write a G for that. So we're going to look at a couple of these as an example. So you should have a sheet of notebook paper, and you should write out all of these in a organized way on a sheet of notebook paper. I'm going to do it just on the screen so you can see. So the first combination we're going to try is the potassium iodide and the sodium chloride. We're going to see, does this form a product? So if I mix together a solution of potassium iodide and sodium chloride, these are all double displacement reactions. So I would have the potassium with the chloride, KCl is one possible product, and I'd have the iodide and the sodium, NaI, as the other possible product. And now I'd want to look at my solubility rules. I'd see that potassium is soluble with no exceptions, so that would be soluble in solution, and sodium is also soluble with no exceptions, so that would also be soluble. So this does not form a product. So I would put a dash in this box to show that I don't expect a product there. All right, so then the next, we'll skip ahead a little bit. I want to look at one that does form a product for sure. So let's look at potassium iodide again, but this time we'll look at the combination of that with the silver nitrate. So if I look at potassium iodide solutions, these are all solutions. They're ionic compounds that have been dissolved in water, and silver nitrate. So I look at my potential products. If I put potassium with nitrate, both potassium and nitrate are soluble with no exceptions. So that's going to be soluble. But silver iodide, iodides are normally soluble, however, silver is one of the exceptions. So silver iodide does form a solid product. So that is going to be the product of my reaction. Now, if I want to know what color is this product, I can go up to my chart here, and I can see that silver iodide forms a yellow solid. It's the only one that forms a yellow solid out of our possible combinations. So I would put a Y here to indicate that that would be a yellow solid. So you need to go through every single combination and see which ones form no products, which ones form gases, which ones form white products, and which ones form yellow products, and put W, Y, G in there as necessary. And this is something that I'll check before I let you guys go into the lab. So before you go into the lab, you have to have this entire chart complete. So you don't have to do the whole thing before you come to lab, but the more you do, the less you'll have to do before I let you go in and perform the experiment. So, if you're working on these, I can help you during the pre-lab, but the faster you have them done, the faster you're going to be able to get in and actually do the experiment. So when you go in to do the experiment in lab, then you're going to look and see which of these combinations, if I put these together and it forms a white solid, I would put W. If I put different combinations together, I record my observations, and then I'll show you guys in pre-lab how we're going to use this tally chart here to figure out which compound is which. So the tally chart, you're going to complete before you go into lab to do the experiment. You're going to look at your completed chart up here, and you're going to see how many Y's do I have, how many W's do I have, and you're going to tally them all up. And then we'll be able to use that tally chart and then compare it against your unknowns in the lab, and you'll be able to figure out which unknown is which chemical formula. And then I'll check that before you guys leave the lab so you know if you have it correct. And there's nothing to do after the lab. There's no post-lab. So by the time you're done with the lab, you'll know that you have 20 out of 20 points. However, you do have to complete this entire chart first and figure out which things form products. And then for everyone that does form a product, you have to write a net ionic equation. So you don't actually have to write out, like for this one here, since it didn't form any products. I might want to do that work on a piece of notebook paper, but I don't need to actually record it for the lab. I don't need to submit it. The only thing I do need to write is the net ionic equation for the things that do form a product. So for example, right here, the potassium iodide and the silver nitrate, that did form silver iodide. That was my product, right? And so then I would write my combination of potassium iodide and silver nitrate. When I put those together, my net ionic equation is the formation of the silver iodide. So the potassium nitrate they're both spectator ions, I don't care about them. But the silver ion from the silver nitrate comes together with the iodide ion from the potassium iodide. And these two come together to make my solid silver iodide. So for anything that does form a product, a yellow precipitate, a white precipitate, or a gas, you want to write the net ionic equation in this chart right here. So that is the other thing that I will check before I allow you to go into the lab. I want to see that you have this chart completed, and I want to see that you have all the correct net ionic equations. And then from there, you'll be able to go into the lab, do the experiments, and then match up all of the letters for the unknown solutions and figure out which solution are they, which one's potassium iodide, which one's silver nitrate. So you want to work on this at least a little bit before you guys come to lab, and then we'll talk about the tally charts in lab. So I will see you guys in class. Email me if you have any questions.